My name's GuyKesTV and I've been a professional mountain bike tester for over 22 years. And today, the bike I'm doing a tech talk round on is Santa Cruz's totally new Tallboy 4. The previous three Tallboys have all kind of been a gradual evolution, but there is some real revolution going on with this one. Not least, you'll notice straight away, Tallboy now goes to this lower linkage driven shock layout. First seen on the V10, then moved into Bronson, Mega Tower, Hightower. And that 45mm stroke shock on the rear is now pushing out 120mm of travel at the back end. So it's 10mm more travel than the old bike. And up front, you've got 130mm fork. But the crucial difference is how that suspension feels. The old one had quite a lot of pedal kickback on it for a modern bike. It really, it was great in terms of interactivity, whether you're on the brakes or whether you're on the pedals, you could really pitch and yaw the bike around. But on the flip side, if you didn't like a bike that pitched and yawed around when you braked or pedaled hard, it would bounce you all over the place. So this is a much more neutral, better traction over small bump, and you've still got a really, really efficient mid-stroke for pedaling. And then it's got a progressive linear action, so it just ramps up steadily all the way through for a really, really kind of firm, well-controlled landing off bigger stuff, or if you clobber a boulder. I mean, it's certainly not plush. It's still very, very tactile and feedback rich in terms of how you perceive the trail through your feet and through the bike. And it's not going to wipe your nose if you make an almighty mess of things and plough it into a boulder field too hard or something like that. It's still a bike that keeps you on your toes and is best being ridden on its toes. But that feedback, that mid-stroke, just gives it such a rich and kind of visceral feel. I mean, this thing loves ripping a turn and scraping its bars on the ground if you're that good. And it just, bang, watch the live ride of it. It just loves being chopped from corner to corner to corner because you've got this such a low centre of gravity and it's so long and stretched at the front now. It really, really is a brilliant corner siding bike. You're also getting totally new geometry. I mean, Santa Cruz, like previous generations, always used to be relatively conservative in terms of geometry. But this bike is basically the same angles and numbers as the Hightower and the Mega Tower. 65.5 degree head angle is half a degree steeper than the Hightower, but reach on a large is 470. This isn't actually an extra large, that's a 490mm reach. Bottom bracket height is 335, and you're looking at a 76 degree effective seat angle, or 76.2 degree if you use the little high-low chip, which is in the lower suspension linkage. I think most people are going to be hard pushed to notice 3mm in ride height or a 0.2 degree difference in head and seat angle. But what's surprising is how much difference it makes to the shock rate. Putting it in the higher mode gives a less linear shock response. So there's less kind of a blunt nose on the front of that mid-stroke support. It's definitely a smoother transition right through. I think I actually prefer it in the high mode, which is rare for me. Out the back, you've also got another flip chip here on the rear axle. So that takes that 430mm chainstay length out to 440. If you want a longer back to kind of balance up with the longer front end on the extra large or extra large size frames, or if you just want a bigger tyre in there. Standard, it'll fit a 2.4. With the 440mm chainstay chip, it'll fit a 2.6. So back to the sizing, comes in an extra small as well as small, medium, large, and extra large. So everybody gets a chance to riding a Tallboy, and as well as the two, gents, Santa Cruz's, you also get a Juliana Joplin version, a female version, which comes in extra small, small and medium sizes. And whatever size you get a down tube mounted bottle cage there, even on the smallest range, because there's nothing else going on in there. There's nothing to get in the way of putting a bottle in. And you also get a second bottle mount underneath there. I mean, they have saved weight by not fitting the tailgate guard that you get on the Hightower, but you still get a sump guard there and this really heavily armoured, rubberised, ribbed chainstay protector there. As usual for Santa Cruz, all the bearings are lifetime warranted, plus they're user serviceable. Just going into a little more detail now, flipped it round anyway. Again, you've got threaded bottom bracket, so super easy to replace when it eventually does wear out, but it'll last a lot longer than a press fit bottom bracket, and it isn't going to damage the frame if it does go. You've got this little chip in the base here, and you get a grease guard as well in there, so you can purge the bearings with fresh grease in between a full service on them. And a little shock protector on the back there. You've got that big CNC one-piece alloy linkage there, and then in here you've got this triangular rocker hidden in the pizza oven on the base of the seat stay that drives this 190mm by 45mm stroke box DPS shock here. And it's an extra volume shock with your 3 compression positions there and 3 fine adjustment positions there on the low speed compression damping. In terms of the damping tune, it's standard compression. They haven't stripped out all the low speed compression as they did on the Hightower, because it's actually got less anti-squat than the Hightower has. So it's actually, naturally, it's a more sensitive bike anyway. But they have fitted bearings on the rear of the shock there to really maximise that sensitivity. So there's no stiction at all in the system. Well, as little stiction as possible. There's still, still a bushing up the top, but as little stiction as possible there. And as well as a standard straight can, you can also put a piggyback in there. So a RockShox Super Deluxe or a Float X2 will fit if you want that extra damping capability. Because this, with this geometry and this frame, it really, this bike can properly haul. This massive head box up here is really, really stiff, and you've got twin chainstay struts here, slightly asymmetric, but tying the whole back end together really, really tightly. And again, big boss size stays, and they've moved to a flatter kind of more rectangular tube profile, both on the down tube and on the main frame, which gives it a really good kind of twist resistance. But actually, when you're riding it really, really hard, it gives it a really nice amount of float vertically as well. Up front, in terms of detailing, you've got these Hightower style straight into the head tube cable guides, so there's no chance of rubbing your paint or getting any scratches that way. Keeps all the cabling nice and clean, and also all the cables have full internal routing, so you can just slide them in and out without worrying about getting them lost in the void of your carbon cavity. So that makes servicing really, really easy. Adds a bit of weight potentially, but in terms of user friendliness, absolutely spot on. And up front, to match that sensitive top stroke from the shock and then that big mid-stroke support, you've got a RockShox Pike Select Plus fork running 130mm travel, so 120mm less than maximum, so you get a lot of stanchion overlap there, so it's a really stiff, accurate feeling unit. You've only got limited compression damping, and adjustment on here is because it's only Select Plus, it's not the Ultimate, but it's a short offset fork as well, so keeps everything much more in line with the steering axis. And even though it's a 50mm stem, so you could go short on the stem, I've ridden it with a 35 and it properly goes crazy. It's still a very light and responsive steering feel. And you've got these big old 800mm Santa Cruz carbon AM bars, so loads of leverage, and again, a really, really great ride feel. G2 brakes, so it's a guide 4-pot caliper now with a bit more power. The old Tallboy used to have double pot level brakes on there, so more power there. And you've got DHF tyre on the front and a DHR rear on the back, so proper chunky trail tread. 2.3s either end. I mean, that's a deliberate choice by Santa Cruz. You could go bigger, but they really wanted to keep that kind of more precise, more feedback rich feel on this bike to match the shorter suspension, to match the whole kind of character, this real kind of gripped, and it's a properly involving bike still. It's a bike that really, really rewards skill and gives you great feedback when you're properly on the ragged edge. It's not just going to anaesthetize the trail. Santa Cruz reserve carbon wheels are an option. I mean, you're not saving a massive amount of weight compared to the alloy wheels, but they've got a lovely ride feel, and these rims are just absolutely bomb-proof. I had a long-term set on for a couple of years on another bike now, and they've got these, they're a unique rim to Santa Cruz. You've got these little mounds there and the spoke holes to reinforce them. They're lifetime warranted, and they're laced into DT Swiss 350 hubs, which just keep going all day long. There is obviously a downside to all this extra toughness and this extra control. Frame weight is up 400 grams on the last Tallboy. Complete bike weight, I mean, this extra large is just under 13 kilos, so a large is 12.8 kilos. So it has, that's 700 grams more than the previous complete bike in the same X01cc 29 reserve spec. So, some people are going to go, oh, it's heavier than I want now, it's got more travel, I don't really want it really slack and long. I like my Tallboy with that really visceral kind of reactive feel. But guess what? Blur TR with a Blur with 110mm fork in, it's pretty close to the geometry of the last Tallboy. It's lighter than the last Tallboy, and it's still got that same suspension feel. So suddenly, that Blur TR was kind of a bit in the shadow of Tallboy previously. But now, and I've actually been riding back to back with Tallboy 3 and Tallboy 4 and Blur TR over the weekend. The new Tallboy and the Blur TR, just very, very different bikes, but it kind of splits the previous Tallboy audience right in two. The faster, kind of more race-orientated, real kickback climb fiends will probably want to go back towards Blur TR, and the people have fully embraced kind of life with knee pads, absolutely pinning it, smashing trails, but still want that precision and versatility, and still a reasonably light, still a reasonably lightweight bike. Are definitely going to go for this new Tallboy. I mean, because like I say, 12.8 kilograms for a large. That's the same weight as the Trek Top Fuel that I tested with a very similar spec a couple of months ago, and that's pitched as an XC race bike. And pretty much everywhere you look now, even race bikes are getting longer travel, they're getting slacker angles, and they're getting dropper posts put in them. They're inevitably getting heavier. And because this pedals so well, yeah, it maybe doesn't charge and pick up quite as well as the previous Tallboy. It maybe sits down a bit earlier on a long extended climb just because of the weight and because of that slow back tyre on the rear. But in terms of, efficiency, pedaling efficiency, whether you're in or out the saddle over roots, rocks, rubble, whatever, this thing is so sorted. It really does. I mean, it pedals beautifully. I mean, you sit down, it's almost like there's a lockout lever in the saddle. It just smoothly goes through. Amazing grip from it. And also, you get that same support and that same real sure-footed feel through corners as well, but it's still light enough and agile enough, and that shock is still tight and taut enough to really reward you if you start grabbing it by the scruff of the neck and properly just like bouncing it and ripping it from turn to turn, from boulder to launch to hip to... you get the idea. This thing really comes alive when it's ridden really, really damn hard. But if you just want to cruise on it, you have got 2 bottle cages, you have got lifetime warranty bearings, you have got, a nice, confident, calm geometry setup now. So it's still what Tallboy always has been, in terms of being super versatile, short travel bike that kind of pushes the expectations of what you can do with a short travel bike. I mean, I took the last one to the Alps, if you watch that video, and I loved it out there. But this just kind of moves Tallboy on to the modern era of riding, where everybody is hitting things harder, faster. Trails are getting harder, whether they're natural or whether they're man-made. And that's exactly the environment that this Tallboy is bred for. Bring those kind of trails to really, really vivid, visceral. Typically for Santa Cruz, it costs an absolute fortune. There's no way you can gloss over that. There are 4 different CC versions, 3 C versions, which has a slightly heavier weight carbon spec, and then 2 alloy versions as well. So you can at least get on board the Santa Cruz Tallboy at a lower price point, and they all come in the same colour, so nobody will know how much you paid until they're right up close. It's kind of like the personalised number plate of bike colour schemes. It's quite smart on Santa Cruz's behalf. It's not a bike for everyone, but Santa Cruz aren't claiming it is a bike for everyone. It's certainly not the most forgiving 120, 130mm bike I've ridden. It's a, if you hit that mid-stroke hard, it's a proper wallop. You've got to be aware of what you're riding into. But the flip side of that is it keeps it high in the travel, and it keeps it super controlled and predictable as well. So it really carries speed, and you can, it's a proper racer's tune on this bike. It's quite a specific customer group who are going to want this. People who basically want a bike that, well, to be fair, not as capable as the Hightower, but it's Hightower shaped, and it's just got a bit more spark and a bit more bite than the Hightower. So you can tackle the same trails, absolutely, but you get more feedback from them and more reward when you properly master them. I can talk, rattle on for ages about the actual sort of specifics and the weights and measures on this bike, but what really matters is how it's ride. So make sure you watch the live rider video. Consider joining on Patreon for some more background support. I've already got subscribers on there who'll be listed in this video. Thanks massively to those guys for their regular payments that make the channel sustainable. And thanks to Santa Cruz for loaning me the bike. Thanks to Jungle for Sweet Protection helmet. Can't Quit Cartel for the jersey. 7 Mesh for the shorts. 661 for the pads. Mons Royale for the socks. And Bontrager for the boots. I've been GuyKesTV. You've been watching GuyKesTV, the technical talk walk around on the Santa Cruz Tallboy CC. Click for notifications, click for subscriptions, and if you've got any questions, get busy in the comments down below. Thank you very much.